Let's look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, if you ask a lot of fans or a lot of analysts or really anybody covering the Detroit Lions right now, you are going to see a lot of defense early, a lot of defensive projections in free agency, a lot of defensive picks high, guys like, of course, Jalen Carter, Tyree Wilson, Devon Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez. All of these big name defensive players are being mocked to the Detroit Lions through the draft and free agency, and a lot of people seem to think the Lions are going to go defensive heavy. But what if they didn't? What if the Detroit Lions decided that last year, the end of the season, their last 10-game stretch was enough to show that the defense was okay? The defense, when healthy and having their playmakers on the field, was a top 10 defense in the NFL, and they want to finish up the offense. And you might say, well, the Lions' offense is already complete. That I would also disagree with. I think the Lions could very easily and realistically address quarterback of the future, address running back one with Jamal Williams unre-signed and DeAndre Swift's inability to stay healthy, offensive guard, wide receiver if DJ Chark is to leave, as well as getting a true tight end one. So there's not a lacking of needs on the offensive side of the ball for the Detroit Lions, even if they're not necessarily the biggest needs for the Detroit Lions. But for the sake of argument, let's say the Lions go out and they get a starting caliber defensive tackle, a starting caliber boundary corner, and another starting linebacker. I'm not going to put names, I'm not going to put cap numbers, just let's say they go out and they get a starting quality player at the three biggest positions: corner, defensive line, and of course, linebacker. That is the three biggest needs filled. So if the Lions go through and now they're trying to maybe future-proof their roster, they're trying to fill out some of the other holes that may have left through free agency, we could see the Detroit Lions go offense early, and that is what this mock draft is about, right? Not necessarily the most realistic mock draft, not necessarily what I think is going to happen, but just another way to look at the draft and another way to potentially fill out the roster. So keep an open mind, and with that being said, let's get to the 6th overall pick. With the 6th overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions build their future. The Detroit Lions select Anthony Richardson, quarterback from Florida. The 6'4", 236-pound prospect threw for 2,500 yards last year while having 17 passing touchdowns to 9 interceptions through the air, while adding 650 yards on the ground and 9 more scores. Richardson is extremely raw. He is a very young, very inexperienced talent, but he is maybe the best talent in the NFL draft. I think he has the best arm, he has the best athleticism, as well as having proven competition versus SEC caliber schools. Now, you're going to point to him and say, oh, it's a quarterback. The Lions don't need a quarterback. But Jared Goff, I think, is limited. I think Jared Goff was a great quarterback last year for the Detroit Lions, but is he the future? Is he going to be the guy that elevates your roster? Is he going to be the MVP? Is he going to carry a roster when the contracts get expensive? I don't know if the answer is yes. But Anthony Richardson would have an opportunity to sit behind Jared Goff, sit behind Ben Johnson, develop behind both of those guys, right? Have Ben Johnson develop him and Jared Goff teach him. And then going into 2024, you can get rid of Jared Goff, clear up a large number of salary cap that you can put back into the defense for a potential Super Bowl run, and go with the superstar in Anthony Richardson. A very similar position to what the Chiefs did a few seasons ago with Patrick Mahomes. A similar situation to what the Buffalo Bills did with Josh Allen. Teams need superstar quarterbacks to compete. Jalen Hurts, backup for MVP. Patrick Mahomes, front runner and winner of the MVP. They both are in the Super Bowl this year. You need a superstar quarterback to win Super Bowls in this league. I don't know if Jared Goff can be that guy, but I know Anthony Richardson has the talent to do so. Now, we move on to pick 18. There's a lot of picks off the board, and there's a couple defensive players there, but with Jamal Williams unsigned still, and DeAndre Swift having the inability to stay on the field all season long, why not take the best running back prospect in the class? Why not take the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley all the way back in the 2018 offseason? Why not take Bijan Robinson, the running back from Texas, totaling over 1,500 yards and 18 touchdowns while averaging 6.1 yards per carry? Bijan is the best running back prospect in this class by a mile and is arguably the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley was drafted number 2 overall by the New York Giants. He would add a consistent running game to the Detroit Lions, and placing the best running back prospect in half a decade behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL is a dream combination for both sides, and I think Bijan Robinson would be an easy bet for Offensive Rookie of the Year if placed behind this offensive line. And then, of course, 2 years down the road when Anthony Richardson takes over, you add another element of that explosive run game with having to defend Bijan Robinson and Anthony Richardson all game long with the weapons of St. Brown and Jameson Williams and a couple other guys that we're going to get to a little bit later. That offense would be incredibly hard to defend, and that offense would be likely the highest scoring offense in all of football. Now, moving on to 48, the Lions have a late second-round pick before they select again, and I know that they just traded away TJ Hawkins, and I know that tight end isn't necessarily the biggest position of need for the Detroit Lions. However, there's a guy that is talked about as a potential tight end 1 in this class, that being the 6'7", 265-pound Darnell Washington from Georgia. Now, Darnell Washington had 450 receiving yards, averaging 16 yards per reception in his final year with the Georgia Bulldogs, and he is a behemoth of a person, sitting at 6'7", 265 pounds. He high points the ball. He has strong hands, has the ability to run after the catch. His route running needs a little bit of work, but he is a good blocker. He is a great red zone threat, has good height, has good size. He would be a huge weapon for the Detroit Lions, literally and figuratively, for the Detroit Lions next season. And knowing they traded away TJ Hawkinson because they didn't want to pay that money, bringing in another high-profile player with elite upside in the NFL at a position for relatively cheap, a second-round rookie contract, could be in the cards for the Detroit Lions as well. Now, moving down to pick 55, we're staying on the offensive side of the ball. 4 for 4, and we're taking Jalen Hyatt, the wide receiver from Tennessee. Coming off a 1,200-yard, 15-touchdown season, winning the Biletnikoff Award for best wide receiver in college football, Jalen Hyatt falls to 55. Jalen Hyatt also runs in the 4.3s and stands at 6 foot. Adding him to this Detroit Lions wide receiver core would be very similar to what the Dolphins, did with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I think that Jameson Williams is extremely comparable to Jalen Waddle, and why Jalen Hyatt is not going to be necessarily the Tyreek Hill. He's not going to be Tyreek Hill because nobody's Tyreek Hill, but he can be a dynamic weapon nonetheless, running in the 4.3s, having 2 wide receivers that can take the top off of a defense as well as take any catch to the house on any given play. That threat combined with Bijan Robinson and Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift and Darnell Washington and a top 5 offensive line in football to go on top of that. Who would stop this offense? And of course, you have, Khalif Raymond, and you have, again, like I said, Amon-Ra St. Brown to be that underneath or intermediate guy. Pair Jalen Hyatt with Jameson Williams and Khalif Raymond, and you might have the fastest trio in the entire NFL. Now, moving on to round 3, they were going to go a little bit defensive, right? The Lions still have a few holes on defense. They still have a few guys that they need to get addressed, but their offense is filled out. Their offense is top 5 in the NFL already, and now you're adding a potential franchise future MVP candidate, the best running back, arguably the best tight end, and the reigning Biletnikoff winner from college football. Now, moving down to pick 81, I wanted to get a few more picks, wanted to get a little bit more value out of this draft class, so I traded the pick to the Indianapolis Colts for pick 106, 140, as well as 181. So we dropped down about 20 more spots to pick 106, where the Lions address the defensive side of the ball for the first time, selecting safety Brandon Joseph from Notre Dame. sitting at 6'1", 190 pounds, and having 10 interceptions, 7 passes defended, a forced fumble, and fumble recovery throughout his 4 years in college football. Brandon Joseph is a great safety. He has really good instincts. He has really good burst, really good quickness, good ball skills, has a knack for finding the football in the air, and is an absolute ball hawk at the safety position. Adding him to a trio of Tracy Walker, Kirby Joseph, and potentially Deshaun Elliott, if re-signed, would lead the Lions with one of the best young safety rooms in the entirety of the NFL. And even if Deshaun Elliott leaves, that leaves you with a really good trio with Ifeatu Melifonwu just slightly behind at the safety 4 role, potentially having a reserve role there as well. Brandon Joseph is a ball hog. Brandon Joseph takes the ball away, has some versatility to play either slot DB or high safety. It's just really good all around. Could be a really good, unique chess piece for the Aaron Glenn defense, and could be a big playmaker, much like Kirby Joseph was a season ago as a rookie safety. Now moving down to pick 140, linebacker needs to be addressed for this team. Linebacker was not very good, and despite the hitting of Malcolm Rodriguez in the 6th round and Derek Barnes in the 4th round of the year before that, the linebacking core still isn't very good, and Ivan Pace, the linebacker from Cincinnati, would absolutely fill a need. Coming off of a season at Cincinnati where he had 136 tackles, 20.5 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 4 passes defended, Ivan Pace is a 6-foot, super productive linebacker with good instincts, good pass rushing ability, good tackling ability, and just an all-around solid defensive playmaker that could help the Lions linebacking core not only solidify as the youngest and one of the more talented groups in football, but allow them to add a significant talent upgrade at that position as well. Now, cornerback needs to be addressed, and going into the 5th and 6th rounds, that was a big need. I think some of the value of this cornerback class is going to be very key for some teams. The Lions are going to double up here. Starting off at 154, DJ Turner, the cornerback from Michigan, standing at 6 foot even. DJ Turner had 10 passes defended as well as an interception this year. He plays physical with good instincts, good ball skills, and always seems to get his hand on the football. And pairing him with a player like Darius Rush, the cornerback from South Carolina, who came away with 7 passes defended, 2 interceptions, as well as a forced fumble while standing at 6'2", 195 pounds, could be a really good cornerback duo. Now, I'm not saying either one of these players is going to start on day one, but they would be really good depth with good arm length, good ball skills. They have the ability to find that football in the air. And I think Darius Rush has the potential to be a day one starting cornerback. I think he has the size, he has the ball skills, he has the tracking ability, he has the takeaway ability to be a starting boundary cornerback in the NFL. And if you're sliding him out with Jeff Okudah across from the other side and find another hidden gem, maybe like this year's Tyree Wilson potentially, you could have a solidified secondary right then and there. And then we go back to, we address the defensive line. As Dylan Horton, the defensive lineman from TCU, is a 6'4", 244 versatile pass rusher, coming away with 15 tackles for loss and 10.5 sacks a year ago for the Horned Frogs. He wouldn't be a day one starter, wouldn't start over guys like John Kaminsky, Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston, Aleem McNeil, Isaiah Buggs, any of those guys, but would be a good rotational piece and could be a player you slide inside, has the size, has the pass rushing ability to be a decent 3-tech in the NFL, as well as the versatility to play multiple positions at TCU. And then we finish off the NFL draft with pick 194, Aubrey Miller Jr., the linebacker from Jackson State, having 117 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 6 passes defended, 5 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries a year ago, standing at 6'2" at the linebacker position. This is a big, rangy athlete with pretty good instincts. Again, like Darius Rush, had a very good Senior Bowl outing, and would, I think, at least come in and contribute immediately on special teams with the potential to win a starting role in the preseason at a linebacking core that is severely depleted. So, with that being said, that is the Detroit Lions reverse mock draft, right? Offense early, filling out the offense and getting an offense that, quite frankly, could not be stopped in the NFL, and adding a couple of key defensive pieces at the end of the year, or at the end of the draft, right? You're adding your quarterback, one of the future, RB1 and starting running back, starting tight end, you're adding a potential starting wide receiver, and then you get to the defense on day 3. Brandon Joseph could start day 1. DJ Turner and I think Darius Rush could both compete for a boundary cornerback spot day 1 because that's how bad the Lions are hurting. And then, of course, you have Ivan Pace, who I think will win a starting linebacker role in week 1 for the Detroit Lions, and some other depth throughout the class. So, with that being said, it's the reverse mock draft. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen. I don't think it's the most likely thing in the world, but addressing offense might not be the worst idea for the Detroit Lions. Anyway, let me know down in the comments what you think about it. I'd be very curious what you guys have to say. But with all that being said, that is it for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions.